Well, welcome to another version of the Kevin Mack YouTube game preview. I guess we'll go with that. We've had that over the last year or so since we get started here on Kevin Mack Sports and NWPRO, and certainly a big game on tap tomorrow with URI-PC. It's a game we did not have last year, and I think the whole state's excited about it. Sold out Dunkin' Donut Center, and really pleased to bring in my friend from URI, Stone Freeman. Stone, seen the Rams. You tell me, Stone. I think it's every game, either for your view on TV or alongside Steve McDonald on B101. Stone, thanks for joining me.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. Yeah, I've seen every game. The only game I haven't been on the call of was the first Boston College game for the Rams here at the Ryan Center. So I've had a front row seat to see these guys play this year. So I'm really excited to break it down with you today.
Yeah, I'm curious. Just you're down in Kingston all the time. Obviously, the game was not played last year. Somewhat controversial circumstances. Obviously, a COVID schedule for both, and Providence ended up shortening its non-conference. It was a crazy year, obviously, with cancellations on both sides as well. I'm sure, like in Providence, everyone's excited about Saturday's game.
Yeah, I mean, that's the case, right? I mean, to wait a year for really to get back into arenas is one thing, and now to wait 2 years to be back in arenas and to see this game is another thing. So there's definitely excitement around here. Obviously, to make the trip to the Dunk is an easy trip for and versus be at the center. So the convenience of the state makes it something that is so interesting and unique to us, I think, here in Kingston and Providence in the state. So this will be an exciting one. I think there are two teams that I think Providence will have the upper hand, especially with it being at home. But I think two teams that have some similarities, really strong bigs, some veteran guards that can really determine the pace of the game. So I'm really excited for Saturday afternoon.
Yeah, Stone, just a little bit on URI's schedule so far. They're 6-2. The only losses have come away from home, one on a neutral court to Tulsa, and one at the buzzer to a Florida Gulf Coast team on the road. They have 2 wins over Boston College. Really strange. You play a team twice in 8 games. And then coming off a really good win at Harvard, where they had to fight back a little bit. Big, you can take us through the Harvard game a little bit, but I think a strong first half for the Rams. Harvard pushed back, as most home teams do, and the Rams did a good job closing that game out. Just a little bit about the Rhodey's first 8 games.
Yeah, I think right now the schedule for Rhode Island has definitely been a topic of conversation, just because this Providence game is get a win in these, the new era of metrics and Ken Palms and net ratings and all this stuff. When you look at quad ones, quad twos, and things of that nature, this is Rhode Island's first look at a quad 1 victory if they can win on the road at Providence, which is a tall task. But yeah, this year has been kind of different for Rhode Island. They started off strong with 3 straight home games at home, or 3 straight games at home against really in-region opponents, Boston University being one, Bryant being one, then Boston College. Then they head on the road for what seems like forever. They play 3 games down in Florida, 2 at the Sunshine Slam, and then in Forest and their way back up north to play a quick home game against Georgia State just to head back on the road at Harvard. But they fared pretty well. I think that Harvard game was really the best they've looked, even though they didn't score a field goal from the 16-minute mark through the 8-minute mark in the second half, which allowed Harvard to squeak back into the game and make it a 3-point game. But Rhode Island got that sucker punch. They gave up what was a 21-point lead. It got down to 3, and then they played situational basketball the rest of the way and really dug away a victory in Cambridge. So they're coming off that victory. I think that's a good win to have before you head on into Providence. Schedule has been a topic, but the Rams this year, it's really been trying to play with a lead that haunted them against FGCU, up 11 at the half and then inevitably losing. So they've been in those situations before, and this game against Providence will present a whole different array of situations for the Rams.
Yeah, let's talk personnel a little bit. We're going to start in the backcourt because there are so many good front court players in this game. We'll start in the backcourt, where a big transition for Rhodey without Fats Russell. Obviously, one of the better players I think Rhodey's had in the last 20, 25 years. Struggled last year with injury, but he was a ball-dominant point guard. Instead, this year, the ball kind of goes to Jeremy Shepard. Not really a point guard either, but can certainly handle the ball. He's a very good shooter, scorer. His numbers aren't actually as high as I projected. I thought he would be a 15 to 18 point a game guy, but instead Rhodey has shown more balance, which I think is more impressive to me. I'm curious your impressions of Shepard so far and the Rhodey backcourt.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's been pretty good this year. I think there's been a little bit of inconsistency, and we saw that really this week on. He really strong performance with 20+ points against Georgia State, and then he didn't have any points last time out against Harvard. So there's that inconsistency there, but they got some depth there. They got Ishmael El-Amin, who's the transfer from Ball State, a grad transfer, and they still have Ishmael Leggett, and Sebastian Thomas has proved to play meaningful minutes. He had really his best game of the season against Harvard, playing 20 minutes off the bench in relief for Shepard, who struggled. So when you got some depth there, and Dave Cox has been running a 3-guard 2-forward set, so you got more guards on the court than usual. You throw Malik Martin in forward guard, defense, and does a pretty good job at that off the bench as well. There is some depth there at the guard position for Rhode Island. I think they want a little bit more out of Jeremy Shepard, in particular his experience, right, to come through a little bit and to score the basketball a little more. But he's been a big part of why the Rams are shooting better from 3, why their shot selection's been better, but why they're assisting on almost 55% of their field goals. So he's been really a leader of a group of guards that has some depth for Coach Cox.
And then the matchups up front. Providence, Nate Watson has had a really interesting year. He's been dominant in many games. Providence has had a difficult schedule, several up games with Wisconsin and Virginia and Northwestern. And then the other night against Texas Tech. Stone, I know that you were at the Harvard game, but that Texas Tech team was, I think, probably as physical a team as Providence will face all year. Xavier, Villanova, doesn't matter. But they were very, very physical. And they did a great job with Nate Watson. He only had 4 shots, 1 basket. Texas Tech, if you want to say, showed anyone a blueprint how to limit Nate Watson, I think they did. I'll be curious what Rhode Island tries to do with Nate, because Noah Horkler has been very good as well, and Ed Croswell, for the first time in his career, was an offensive factor. He was 5 of 5 from the floor. Those 3 guys versus I really like Rhode Island's guys. The Mitchell twins, obviously the first time to see Mekhi Mitchell extensively after his knee injury last year. And Antoine Walker, I think, has been a very solid player for the Rams once he arrived in Kingston. What do you think they'll do with Watson? I guess is probably the most popular question.
Yeah, I think too what Texas Tech, and I listened to the game. I had John and Joe on the radio ride home from Harvard, so I was tuned in and I was listening to, what struck me about Providence was, I think that to them though was maybe a confidence boost for the rest of their team, that team could show up with or without Nate Watson playing big time plays. So I think that's encouraging for them to a certain degree. I think for Rhode Island's sake though, they've made a conscious effort to pack the interior, and it starts with at one point leading the nation in blocks, largely led by Mekhi Mitchell, but Antoine Walker off the played role offensively for the Rams. I mean, you got Walker, who, granted, you take it with a grain of salt because A10 play hasn't started yet, but among conference players, he's shooting the best out of anybody in the A10 right now. And he's coming off the bench after last year, not only starting every game for Rhode Island, but again, leading the league in shot percentage. So you take a look at what they're going to do in the interior. They're going to pound it on the inside, and their 3-point ball has benefited from that too. I mean, I think it was 2018, Fatz's junior year, Jeff Doughton, Cyril Langevine's junior year, Fatz's sophomore year, worst team.
Right, that's right. I do remember that.
That was a difficult team to watch because they were throwing up 23 pointers a game and were maybe hitting 3 or 4. This is a different team. They're largely focused on the interior, and then if they can find an open Ishmael El-Amin, Malik Martin's been really nice from 3. If they can find those shooters on the outside, they'll take it. So when you look at a guy like Watson, I think there's going to be some physicality on the inside between him and the Mitchell twins, and this will create for don't want to say similar, but I think maybe the same type of storyline that we saw Tech and Rhode Island try to keep the ball in the interior, get physical with Nate Watson, and try to lead in those paint categories, points in the paint and rebounding.
Stone, I got a great idea. You call a few friends, I call a few friends. We get the referees about 10 minutes before, we slip them a little cash, no fouls. Okay, yeah. I want Nate Watson and the Mitchell twins to play at least 28, 30 minutes a game, okay? Yep. Because obviously Rhode Island would love to get Nate Watson in foul trouble, and Providence would love to get, I don't know which Mitchell twin, but one of the 2 out of there as well. And yet if the fans see all 3 players, all 5 or 6 players that I mentioned earlier in the front court, I think we have a chance to see a really competitive, physical, aggressive college basketball game. And you really don't get a chance to see that very much. The other night, again, the Texas Tech game was played out like that, but there were a slew of fouls and obviously guys going in and out of the game. So can we do that? Can we pull that off? What do you think?
Why not? I mean, let's get together before the game and we'll talk to whoever that crew is. I'd be interested to see who the crew is actually for this game too. I know this rivalry and all that. There's two basketball teams that'll square off. But yeah, let's let them play this game out, right? We want to see as much as we can on the interior. And
it's funny when you're mentioning how URI wants to attack offensively, get the ball in the post. Providence doesn't really double in the post too much. They think that Nate Watson and Hawkler and certainly Croswell can defend, their opponent one-on-one. I'll be curious what Rhode Island does when Watson gets the ball, because he does put the ball on the floor and maneuver pretty well. And, the opponents who pinch down can certainly cause him some trouble. Like you said, Rhode Island out of the gate, maybe the first 5 games in the country, I think they were leading the country in block shot percentage. So certainly both Mitchells, especially Mikkel, is a very good one-on-one defender. Yeah, I mean, they can really, they got great footwork too on the interior. They're athletes is what it is. And Antoine Walker is another name that has to get dropped in that category too, where soft hands, kind of great feet on the interior and really not afraid of anybody when they come inside. So, for Nate Watson's sake, I think you're right. One thing that I think PC, we'll see on film, and I haven't watched too much, but I know a lot of teams are finding this out, is Rhode Island has struggled against a zone this year. So Rhode Island's looks offensively, if they try to get, Malik Martin at the elbow and try to get one of the Mitchells running baseline, if Martin doesn't wait a split second for the line to come up a little bit, or if those bigs stay true to where their positions are and you're not freeing up the baseline, I'm interested to see what Providence will do defensively against Rhode Island, because I know that's been a huge topic. In particular, the final 12 minutes against Tulsa when the Rams were up 7, and then half of coach's 2 losses, those zones stayed inside of the 3-point arc, and Rhode Island saw some ghosts for sure. So I know Dave Cox was preaching patience and trying to keep the offense steady, but yeah, this will be good. I think, like you're saying about Providence, their bigs are good enough to play these guys one-on-one. But if they want to look to a zone, I'm sure Rhode Island is going to be prepared to see a Providence zone for sure. Yeah, did Harvard play any zone against Rhode Island? Because Providence really, for the first time all season, flashed some zone against Texas Tech. Yeah, they did play some zone. Rhode Island or job that pace. And their 3-point shooting wasn't exactly great against Harvard. Their best came against Georgia State, that granted was really beat up because of some COVID protocols. So they weren't really playing with a full squad. But I thought what Coach Cox mentioned with patience and whatnot, I thought that was on display against Harvard, giving it a second. Again, I thought the guards were patient enough to wait and let the offense kind of set itself up and then try to find a wide open man on the corners or really along the baseline. The Rams led on the paint again too, so they found the Mitchells when they needed to. But yeah, I think Rhode Island is an almost game since the law. Got it. Hey, Stone, last one, and I think you mentioned earlier that no Rhode Island players played against Providence. Only 2 Providence players have played against URI, AJ Reeves and Nate Watson. They're the only 2. So I've always said, I grew up here. You grew up in Warwick. I grew up in Coventry. It's always been a big game. I don't know if it's the biggest game on anyone's schedule anymore. Really, for the last 35 years, they've been in different conferences and contended in these conferences. And I've always said that Rhode Island's biggest game is VCU and Dayton or whoever's atop the A10. And for Providence, it's back in the day, Georgetown and Syracuse. Now it's Villanova, Connecticut. You want to win your league? Those are the games you have to win. That said, tomorrow in December, it's the biggest game on both teams' schedule. Would be a good win, because I think Rhode Island's going to win plenty of games. I don't know if it's going to be a quad 1, quad 2, quad 3 win, but it's going to be a win that Rhode Island, that Providence certainly is going to need. And as you said earlier, certainly a great road win possibility for URI. That said, the atmosphere tomorrow is going to be heated. Sold out dunk again, 2:00. Some people will be sauced up a little bit. I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun atmosphere. I don't know if it matters to the players. I really don't. They like to say that it does. I think it matters to you and your friends and me and my friends who I come across way more than the players. But that said, they play. So once the ball goes up, they want to win more than anybody else. That's my take on the whole rivalry.
No, I think that's a great point, right? I think that the people that have the most investment in this game are the fans, and that makes it special. You can, especially in the world of social media now, people are
Yeah.
talking about it all week and starting to chirp one another a little bit. And I think it's great that we draw so much attention in this state. Granted the geography of it is so small, to be able to have this is kind of ours. And I know that fans will differ on it. One side fans might think that, well, it's not a rivalry. One might put all their eggs in this game. I think for the fans' sake, it's just good to be back. It's had this to have this game back again. But you bring up an interesting point about the players too, because I think you're right. These players want to win their league, and they'll get this down season. When you haven't played in this game before, I'm curious as if that crowd, that atmosphere of the dunk tomorrow will kind of hit the players when they're in the moment, especially Rhode Island side, right? Having 5 guys out there to start that have not played, and everybody coming off the bench that haven't played, and kind of going, wow, this is a little bit bigger than I was anticipating. I thought Malik Martin had a good, I think he was speaking to the media yesterday, and he talked about how Hassan, his brother, never beat Providence. And I thought he brings maybe the most unique perspective as being the younger brother, watching an all-time great in Hassan Martin here ever and over. So there's a unique perspective for these players, and nonetheless, so from my perspective as the fan, I'm just excited to be at the dunk tomorrow, 2:00. Get this game rolling. I'm ready to go.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. It's no question between now and tomorrow. I can't even tell you how many people I've already gotten text and a call before we started our Zoom here. Who's going to win? What do you think?
Yeah,
Who's going to win? What do you think? You're going to get it everywhere you are, Stone, between now and 2:00. So get ready. And I will say this: if you say one thing to one person and something else to someone else, don't worry about it. Don't worry. It is what it is. Be a lot of fun.
That's right. Oh yeah.
Hey, Stone, thanks for joining me. I'll see you pregame, and I hope we have a fun game. Thanks very much.
Kevin, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good to see you again. Take care.
Oh.
All right.